You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.
I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna drink a fine whiskey and smoke a really fine cigar. I said, hey, ladies, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, ladies, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. You're welcome to drink our whiskey and smoke our really fine cigars. One more time, boys. I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna smoke a really good cigar and drink a really fine whiskey.
Welcome to the Man Cave. We are back in the Man Cave, and we are out and about once again downtown Royal Oak, and we are at Motor City Gas. I am Jamie Flanagan.
I am Matthew Fox. We have a life. We actually got out.
We do. Man Cave Happy Hour, whiskey, spirit, cigars, and the stories that go along with it. And we're getting some great stories today. We already had the backstage. Too much of the show already happened because we were getting this whole massive tour of Motor City Gas, and Rich Lockwood, the owner, it was just we're like, save it for the show, Shecky. Hang on. So, Rich, thanks for having us out to Motor City Gas.
No, thanks for coming.
This is an amazing space that you have here at Royal Oak.
Yeah.
Just an amazing space. I cannot say enough things already about Motor City Gas.
So it's Motor City Gas whiskey. Is
Motor
that
City
the
Gas
proper
whiskey.
name?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, it's and we were just stoked to be here. We found you through the socials. And we set up an appointment to talk to you, and then
Here we are.
Lo and behold, a magazine article came out.
Yep.
We're singing some praises of the Motor City Gas Distillery here. So cheers!
to you on that.
Thank you. I appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
I'm at the 23rd best distillery or craft distillery in the country.
No, it was actually all distilleries.
All distilleries.
Yeah.
Oh, shut the front door.
Oh, it's
All
a
right.
podcast. Shut the fuck up. Really?
that's it.
That is
Wow.
fantastic.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny story because we got our heads down working here. We had no idea, and somebody reached out to us over Facebook and said, "Hey, did you happen to see this article?" And it was an article from Travel and Leisure magazine listing us as one of the top 25 distilleries in the country.
Right.
And we thought it was a joke at first, and then we went to Travel and Leisure magazine's website and. Well, if it's a joke, then they're in on it.
Lo and behold, there they are. So you didn't quite realize, was someone out here and reviewed the place, or did they just review the spirits themselves?
What they did is they partnered with Yelp, and Yelp came up with an algorithm for, they looked at 5-star ratings and reviews, and they came up with the 25 best rated distilleries across the country.
Based on Yelp reviews.
Based on Yelp reviews,
Okay.
correct, yeah, which was kind of cool for us because we put a heavy focus on customer service and quality of product, and to know that it's not just the biased opinion of one writer, but it's actually looking at a culmination
consumers.
of nationwide reviews. That was kind of gratifying because normally you don't get a lot of recognition for good old-fashioned customer service.
Well, the Motor City Gas here has kind of been an underdog. It's one of the best kept secrets here in Royal Oak that I got a good feeling is probably going to blow up on you here in a little bit. So what is the story behind your creation of Motor City Gas?
So I started off the way a lot of people do.
With utter failure.
Right, yeah. We had plenty
lost
of
all
that.
your damn jobs.
That's right, yeah. I lost my job during the recession and hit rock bottom, and that's when my wife suggested that I take my hobby, which had turned into
So you had a passion for
bit
this
of a problem.
leading up to it.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So this was a bit of a hobby of mine that was turned into a profession. We just kind of, my wife and I took the leap and did it the hard way. We just kind of figured out things on our own and learned by failing and getting back up again. Yeah. And 3.5 years later, here we are.
All right. So the spirits that you're distilling here, what are you distilling?
So we are licensed to make any type of hard liquor. We're a craft distillery, but whiskey is my passion. So we decided we wanted to do it the hard way and just focus on stuff that we're passionate about.
Okay.
I didn't want to make things that my heart wasn't really into. Normally, the way that distilleries do it is they start with their unaged spirits. They come out with their vodka and their gin because it's quick to make. It's easy for bartenders to put in cocktails, and then they put their aged spirits away and they kind of back into that down the road. But like I said, we wanted to go right for what we were passionate about, so we started from day one with whiskey. All we do here is whiskey all the time.
How long was your first whiskey aged for? Since you started off in that regard, how long did your first barrel age for?
So we started off small barrel aging in 8 and 10 gallon barrels, which not to get too geeky about it, but the smaller the barrel, typically the faster that the whiskey will age. What you get in an 8 gallon barrel in 1 year somewhat emulates what you can get in 3 or 4 years in a larger size barrel.
Sure.
So they were small barrel aged for, in the whiskey world, a short period of time, 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
Was our initial whiskeys, and we've slowly been working at transitioning from small barrels to big barrels, and also aging our whiskeys longer. This fall, pretty soon, every whiskey that we have on our board is going to be a minimum of 2 years aged in the barrel.
That's great.
So that first whiskey, you had to wait 8 months before you could let it loose.
Yep.
So what was that process, and what was that recipe? What was it?
So the very first whiskey that we produced was called Royal Oak Dry. That's what's in your drink right there.
Jamie's drinking an old-fashioned right now. One of his favorites. He's a sucker for an old-fashioned.
And so that's a pretty traditional rye whiskey. We put a little bit of corn in it, which is kind of an East Coast style with rye. The rye tends to be a drier, spicier grain, and corn gives a little sweetness, so it balances it out. So that is about 30% corn.
Okay.
And it was really a gamble. We didn't know exactly what we were going to get out of these barrels, and we didn't have any investors, so it wasn't like we were playing with other people's money. It was our life savings.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it was pretty gut wrenching putting all that money into the barrel and hoping and praying that in 8 months when we opened, people were going to be able to stomach it.
Fingers were crossed, toes were crossed, eyes are crossed.
That's right.
After drinking too much, everything gets crossed.
So there's an array of equipment in here. Is this the equipment that you started with, or did you start with a smaller setup?
Most of the heavy equipment in here was what we started with.
Okay, so that's a fair size startup.
Oh yeah, it's a healthy investment. We are honestly on the smaller side for the distilling industry. Even in the craft distilling world, we're kind of a small dog. So we have to work extra hard, keep this equipment running 24/7 to keep up. But we've upgraded some of the other equipment. We started off very much on the cheap with mostly plastic containers and a lot of home brewing equipment you probably recognize walking around. And with time, we've slowly upgraded to stainless and upped some of our smaller equipment. The next major upgrade we're going to make is a new still, which I hope to order next year. We're going to buy a American-made 500-gallon copper still from Vendome Copper out of Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So you started with the Motor City Rye.
Yep.
And that was the first one out. Between then and now, you said there's been 50 different whiskey blends that you've dived into.
Yep.
So what came next after the Motor City Rye?
Oh God, we're going back a ways. I think I believe that the second release was the Belly Up Bourbon, which is a pretty standard rye bourbon grain bill. The one unique touch that we put on ours is after aging in a new barrel with a char, which is required by law to make bourbon, we take it out and we throw it in a Caribbean rum cask just for a little bit of time. We don't leave it in there long enough where it starts to take on a rub character. We want it to be a true bourbon, but it just kind of gives the level of sweetness a little bit different dynamic.
Okay. So when you first started out, there was a question about the barrels as well. So what kind of barrels were you using when you started?
So when we first started, the small barrels that we were using were from a cooperage out in craft cooperage in Minnesota called Black Swan.
Okay.
And then the larger barrels were a little more difficult to get. We get those from a couple different coopers down in down south, Calvin Cooperage and Independent Stave, which supply a lot of the big guys.
You mentioned when you were trying to get the barrels, there was a shortage of barrels when you originally started going to get them.
Yeah.
But they caught up with you.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Right when we were getting ready to open, with all the other problems we've got going on, we find out that there's a global whiskey barrel shortage, and the Coopers wanted like a year to 14-month lead time for barrels.
Yeah. Now it's only about a 6-month wait.
Yeah, right. No, we can get the big barrels in about a month's time, to 2 months, and small barrels are about the same now too.
What's the capacity of a small barrel, a big barrel?
As far as how much we're making?
No, in those barrels.
In the barrels.
So we do all different size barrels, 8s, 10s, 15s, 25, 30s.
Gallons, right?
Gallons.
Okay.
And 53 gallon is the standard big barrel that you see at most of the bigger distilleries.
Mm-hmm. You have a couple of those back there, do you?
We got a bunch of them. We're transitioning slowly from small barrels to big barrels, and eventually small barrels will be strictly for R&D.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, this
R&D.
the rack houses back there are pretty amazing. So what is what's on tap now? What are what's the mainstay? What do you do all the time, and what's something special you have going?
So the only really mainstays that we have are the Royal Oak Dry, that first whiskey we made. The Belly Up Bourbon was the second one we talked about, and then we have an apple pie moonshine that we do that's kind of the go-to for the people. Every once in a while we get somebody in here that's had a bad college experience with whiskey, and they just can't stomach it. So the apple pie moonshine is the liqueur that pretty much anybody finds something they like in.
All right, apple pie moonshine. So what's the recipe on that?
So apple pie moonshine.
Apple pie. Moonshine.
And moonshine.
We start with apple pie moonshine is kind of a traditional American moonshine recipe. We start with a wheat-based moonshine, and we blend it with Michigan apple cider, and then we put a bunch of fun Christmas spices in there to do a little infusion. And normally it's sold or drank unaged. We put our own twist on it by then aging it in the Royal Oak Dry barrel.
Oh, wow.
So it's an aged liqueur in the rye. The spiciness of the rye gives it something a little different.
Okay. So I'm just digging this place, and I'm digging this old fashioned.
All right, so you're digging your old fashioned. I went for you guys do a featured drink every once in a while, and you're featuring what I have in my hand, which is it's a rye with a pear.
Yep.
A Michigan pear.
Yep.
Right?
So we change our cocktail menu up seasonally, and then in between that, every couple weeks or so, we do a new featured cocktail.
Yeah.
And one of the favorites that we've done is we take our Royal Oak Dry whiskey and we infuse it with Michigan Barlett pears.
Oh my gosh!
And the guys they dress it up in a cocktail form, but me personally, I like the straight infusion of just the rye and the pear.
Yeah, and I went right with you on that because I do like it. I want to try it at its at its essence, right?
Yeah.
If you want to add stuff to it, that's great. But I want to try it just the way it is now.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely fantastic. It really is nice.
Yeah. For whatever reason, our rye just pairs well with pear, and I think when you leave it straight like that, it allows a little bit more of the nuance of the whiskey to come through.
So whose bright idea was it to do the Bartlett pear and the rye?
I'm pretty sure that was a mistake. Yeah, that was an accident.
It's a happy accident
that we stumbled across, and it's worked for us. So now what we're doing is we're also trying to drop pears directly into the barrel so that they age with the whiskey. Wow. That's a year-long project, so we don't have a sample for you, but
that's all good.
Sure. But we got high hopes for that one.
So for your featured products, you have your wait staff is here, your bartenders or what have you. Do you allow them to kind of do their own kind of
Absolutely.
guesswork and trying to figure it out and what's good, what folks might like?
Yeah, we're a small family business, so we try to make everything around here very collaborative. So when it's coming up with the cocktails, even when we're pulling samples out of the barrel, trying to determine if the whiskey's done and ready to dump, we try and get everybody involved in here. It makes it more fun that way, and I think you get better results that way because you get a lot of different opinions from a lot of different palates.
Of course. Hey, and engages your employees to be more creative.
Yeah.
With what they're trying to do and trying to help you and trying to help themselves for that matter.
For sure.
Right.
For sure.
If one of your guys want to come over and kind of give us a synopsis of his process, that'd be kind of fun too.
Yeah, absolutely. We can get Eric over here whenever you'd like. He's kind of our mixologist in house.
Okay.
Yeah. See that? Go ahead, Jamie.
No, but the drinks are amazing. But you're starting with all the spirits that you've created. Where are you getting these recipes from? Are you doing hit and miss? Are you coming up with them? Are you using classic recipes? Where do you get your recipes
For
from?
the whiskeys or
for
the
the
cocktails?
whiskeys? For the whiskeys.
The whiskeys are. I come up with the recipes, but like I said, at each stage of the process, we try to make it collaborative. A lot of it is like, we take it, we were talking about this earlier, we don't take, most distillers take a very scientific approach to this stuff. We take a more culinary, I think I referred to it as a backwoods approach, where we use more of our natural senses of our smell and taste. And, once you learn the fundamentals, it's kind of like cooking. Then you kind of have an idea what's going to work and what's not going to work. You don't know exactly how it's going to end up, but you know that it's not going to end up in a really bad place. So, sometimes the recipes that we come up with don't end up as good as we were expecting, and then sometimes they end up a lot better. But it's a lot like cooking. We just kind of the beauty of whiskey is unlike beer, where what you end up with you've got. Whiskey at the final product, if you don't like it, you can kind of keep massaging it to create something different. So you could throw it in a different type of barrel, or you could blend it with another type of whiskey. Worst case scenario, you redistill it if it's absolutely not something you like. But knock on wood, I don't think we've had any batches so far that have gone that bad south that we've had to redistill them.
All right. So I saw on the shelf back there, because you have a display with what's available right now. They come in what sizes people can pick up?
We do the 5th bottle, which is a standard 750 milliliter. Sure. We do a pint-sized bottle, which is half of that, and then we do our snorts, which are...
I'm getting a couple of snorts before we leave tonight, so I can take them out west.
They are TSA approved.
Yeah, TSA approved snorts. A little bottle of whiskey that you could take with you.
They're 1.5 ounce bottles that they're just kind of little samplers.
All right. So
was that on purpose, or did you just decide to do that and it just happened to be TSA approved?
It just happened to be. I don't think that was behind it all. We just, a lot of the distilleries now are doing the little airplane bottles, the samplers, and ours is more like a little moonshine mason jar type bottle. But we do that in several of our products.
So on the shelf back there, one caught my eye. It was an Irish whiskey. What is that one called?
So we call our Irish whiskey Barley Legal.
Barley Legal.
And we're not...
So what makes an Irish whiskey, and how is this an Irish whiskey?
So this technically is not an Irish whiskey. Sure. It has to be made in Ireland. It's one of those regional whiskeys. So we call it an Irish style whiskey. And we try to emulate a lot of the old Irish practices. So this is a blend of raw barley that's grown here in Michigan with malted barley that's imported from Ireland. We triple pot copper distill it, and then we age it in ex-bourbon barrels. And what happens there is because you're using, you're distilling it clean and you're putting it in a barrel that's already been used, which has lost some of its original char, you get a lighter style whiskey with more delicate flavors. Now, the version that we have out now is a special edition we did with that, where after it was aged in the ex-bourbon barrels, we threw it in some old cider barrels, hard cider barrels from Cellarman's over in Hazel Park.
Ooh, I definitely want to try one of those.
Yeah.
Something that caught my eye, because I love a good, I'm a craft beer guy. I love a good IPA. I do enjoy an IPA every once in a while. But what caught my eye was the hopped mess.
Yeah.
Help me understand what's the hopped mess. What's the hopped mess?
Besides the girls we used to date.
That was a fun one. We so that was a collaboration we did with Axel Brewing over in Ferndale. Dan Riley, who runs the brewery over there, is somebody that a friend of mine from my old days in advertising, and we ended up getting a bunch of their IPA beer over here, and we ran it through the still. Whiskey is essentially a distilled beer. Okay. So you make beer and then you concentrate it, and that's when it becomes turns into a whiskey. So you could technically put Budweiser in the still and make whiskey from it. So we took IPA beer from Axel Brewing, we distilled it, and then we thought, well, why don't we double hop it? We'll throw it in some IPA beer barrels from across the street at River Rouge Brewing Company. And they were stupid enough to let us do it. So we ended up with a double hopped IPA whiskey.
Wow.
And it's a crazy one. It takes on the hops come through, not so much in a bitter way like it does in the beer, but you get more of the citrus and floral notes from it. Okay. It almost starts to take on the character of like an aged gin, if you've ever had one.
Yes. That's something I would like to try at one point in my lifetime.
So rewinding to the Irish blend, just as an example. So you have you said some hops brought in from Ireland?
Nope, the Irish whiskey has no hops.
Oh, no. There was hops there.
The malt is what we bring in.
Yeah.
So Irish whiskeys are traditionally a blend of some raw barley and then some barley that has been malted. And the malting process is where you wet the grain and you trick it into sprouting, and then you torture it by stopping that process by either toasting it or smoking it.
Okay.
So your single malt whiskeys will be 100% malted grains. Your grain whiskeys are typically a majority raw grain with a little bit of malt. Irish whiskeys tend to range anywhere from 50-50 raw and malted to a little heavier on the raw and a little less on the malt. So
that you import that malt from Ireland. Where are you sourcing the rest of the materials that you're using? The product, the ingredients. Where are the rest of the ingredients? Yeah. Materials, ingredients. I was looking for the word. So
it's right there.
Where are you sourcing the rest of the ingredients used in most of the Motor City Gas whiskeys?
So we try and use as much. We love supporting local Michigan, so we try and use as much Michigan-grown grain as possible.
Thank you. Great.
That's awesome.
We do like to dabble in different styles from around the world, so we do like to import a little bit to get a little terroir from those regions. With this one, we kind of wanted it to be a fusion of local Michigan grown and Irish.
Yeah.
So we imported the malt because, excuse me, that's what they do so well over there. And then we team up with a variety of different local farmers here, and we try and get the grains as fresh as we can from them right after they're harvested. And I have to give a shout out to Motor City Malt House, which is a small malt house that opened recently in Macomb Township here. Okay. They're supplying a lot of local brewers and distillers, and they were kind enough. We use their malts for some of our single malts, but they were kind enough to also help put us in touch with some of the farmers that they have connections with.
Wow.
This industry is cool like that. Everybody kind of tries to help each other out.
So the whiskeys are great.
Yes.
And this place is really, really great. So you have we're on 4th Street.
Yeah.
Just a little bit further east of Maine. You go down Maine and you hit Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle.
A block and a half off of Maine.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
And then just another half a block over, here we are at Motor City Gas. It is a good looking spot. So who designed this and how big is it when you started and where are you going?
So the initial building that we started in was, this space is about 2,200 square feet, which again, and even in the craft world, this is a nano-sized distillery. There really wasn't a design plan. we did, we did most of the work ourselves. I've got an old friend, Sean Chevalette from high school, who's a carpenter, and he and I on Craigslist found an old Michigan barn, a 100-year-old barn. Oh. So we bought up a bunch of the wood, and we had no idea what we were going to do with it.
Oh, wow.
We kind of started and just started at one end and just started designing it.
Is that where the walls come from? The walls came from?
Yeah, absolutely.
100-year-old barn.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
He built the tables, the bars. His business is called SC Cabinetry.
Okay.
And we just kind of started and we just designed it as we went. And It came out pretty good.
How long did the build out actually take when you started to when you opened your doors? How long was that process?
It was a very long process. I would say from the time that we started filing for our licensing to the time we opened was a good 2 years.
Okay, wow.
My wife kept her job and kind of kept some money coming in while I devoted full time to this. The construction, I'm not sure how long it took because there were several points where we stopped building because we literally didn't think that we were going to make it.
Right.
And then we would get some good news and we'd start building again. And then all of a sudden we'd stop because we thought it wasn't going to work again.
So there's a process.
There is a process.
It's like, if I had to describe it, I would say it's an industrial city barn.
That's actually a really good description.
Yeah.
Because when we walked in, I just thought, where did they get the concept for the tasting room? Because you have the tasting room and you have and the bar area. Yeah. Then you actually have the distilling process just on the other side of the wall. Yeah. So and that's where you and I are sitting. Jamie, you're tasting. He and I are distilling. So
and then there's these really big barn doors, these sliding doors. Do you block it off?
We leave it open as much as possible. Yeah. Sometimes in the summertime, it gets really hot, so we will close it up so that we can keep the tasting room cool. But having this open kitchen style environment is what we really wanted. We want people to see the process. We want people to talk to the distillers.
Sure.
In fact, most of our bartender servers here are also distillers.
Oh, okay.
Which is something that was important to me. I wanted people who could work both sides of the house because it provides a different type of experience for the customer when that server can say, "I actually made this. I'm not just serving it to you."
So how many of you are there? So employee, staff wise, that are both bartenders, distillers.
We run a very thin staff here, and I work them extremely hard.
And they love you for it.
Because you said this is running 24/7.
Yeah.
Not literally, but we try and run it as many days as we can.
Sure.
As long as we can,
Yeah.
So there is my wife, who also has a job outside of here. She's the smart one of the couple. She's the MBA grad that God loves all the business.
It was Tanya, right?
Tanya.
God love Tanya.
Yep. And so she handles all the business end of things. I am the head distiller, so I handle operations here and marketing. And then we've got, Eric and Rick and Doug, who are distillers and also servers. And then we have Jenna and Megan, who are part-time servers that we have in the tasting room.
Wow.
So what's the legality of that? What can you serve here? Can I get a shot and a beer, or what's available as I come in?
So our license is called a small distiller's license. We're technically at the moment only licensed to make and serve hard liquor. And every single product has to be approved by the federal government before we can serve it.
Now, each blend that you do has to get approved?
Every single product. Anything that's new that we make has to be.
What's that approval process?
So we have to send our labels in for approval, where the government's looking to make sure that we have all the appropriate information on there, and we're not naming it something crazy.
False claims.
Like barley legal. And then sometimes they will also want to know the recipe.
Sure.
And most of the times, as long as it's nothing too crazy, they'll accept the recipe.
Like a hopped mess.
But sometimes they will ask for a sample, and they'll actually do testing on it.
Oh.
It's a very, very highly regulated industry.
Do they actually come come here to do that, or
no,
you have to
ship it out?
You have to ship it all out.
Yeah.
Of course you do.
So
right?
every blend you've had to do this like 50 times because you've had like 50 different blends.
Yeah, and then we're also, because the label approvals can sometimes take a very long time, 6 months, so you have to plan ahead. So sometimes we're submitting things for approval that never end up coming to life. So,
and there's a cost to that, of course.
There is a cost, but the time is the bigger cost.
Sure.
Right.
I drive my wife insane because she doesn't do all that.
As the business end of it, I get it.
Right.
Wow. I love that. All right, so the menu, I'm looking at the menu. So you can only serve spirits, and you're only doing whiskeys. Are you gonna break the mold and do some gins, do some, vodkas?
So we will never do vodka.
One
to
day,
me,
no vodka.
yeah, vodka to me is chemistry, not,
Okay.
not art. It's just my personal opinion.
Right on. Right
So,
on.
I'm a big fan of the aged spirits.
Sure.
We, whiskey will always be king here, no doubt. But we have been looking into just doing some small batch fun stuff.
Okay.
Particularly in the brandy and in the rum worlds. Gin, I've never been a huge fan of gin, so. Again, I kind of have this thing where I want to stick to things that I'm passionate about.
Right.
I have nothing against it, but I can't say we'll never do it.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I think if we veer from whiskey, it's probably going to be in the rum and brandy world.
Rum. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go with rum.
Yeah.
Rum.
But it's
All
like
you, man.
down the road, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've started working on some stuff. We don't have anything in barrels yet.
Okay.
So we're talking at least a year out before we would have something.
So right now, the list when you come in, there's a great menu of cocktails available, and then there's the bottles that you can pick up. So the Royal Oak Rye,
Yep.
Royal Tucky Rye,
Yeah.
Belly Up Bourbon, Hopped Mess, Apple Cider Moonshine, Shag Nasty,
The pistol whip.
Barley
You got
Legal.
They have the pistol whip.
And I was going to say, man, this Shifter 6 Gear, Downriver, Struggle Bus Moonshine. Are any of these culturally insensitive? The Downriver, yeah, that's culturally insensitive. And then Pistol Whip. What the hell is Pistol Whip?
So Pistol Whip is a malt whiskey, which we were talking about the malted grains.
Yeah, right.
Malt whiskey means that more than 50% of the grain in the grain bill is malt.
Huh.
We put a little bit of rye in there, which spices it up a little bit, and then we started in a new barrel with a number 3 char, which is a heavy char, and then we finish it in the Shag Nasty barrel, which is a liqueur.
Wow.
So it's a liqueur barrel finished malt whiskey.
Nice. I see you have the Midnight Oil.
Yeah.
That's a band, isn't it? Is that a band?
It is.
Okay,
It
I
is.
just making
Heads are
sure.
burning.
Heads are burning. There it is.
Heads are burning.
Yeah, that one comes out this coming Saturday.
The Midnight Oil does?
Yeah.
And
Excellent.
then Loch Ness, which is a heavily peated one.
Yep.
So that's a tip to the hat of a Scottish, the Scotch style.
Yep.
So every single one of the, not these are just the drinks that you, or the different types of whiskeys that you have. Is that correct?
Yep.
So each one of these you had to send for approval to the
Yep.
federal government.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So what has been your favorite? Have you had one that you're like, what's been your favorite?
I think my favorite is the Oaktown Brown, which I believe was
That's the one I didn't mention. That's the one I didn't read off.
that I
The
believe
Oaktown Brown,
was
okay.
the 4th or 5th whiskey that we made when we opened.
Okay.
And we're re-releasing it for the first time.
Okay.
The first version was a year old, and this version is 3 years old.
Okay.
2 years in a new barrel and 1 year in our Royal Oak Rye barrel. And that one we won a Best in Class award, double gold Best in Class at a national competition out in San Diego.
Right on. So, all right. So, and then on the flip side of the menu, those are all the bottled whiskeys you can pick up. And on the flip side is a whole array of cocktails. The Ward, the Hot Toddy, you got the Old Fashioned, the Cherry
Toddy,
Bomb
yum.
Shooter. Matt is drinking the, what was that again?
I got the featured cocktail. Eric, welcome.
And,
How you guys doing today?
Yep, no, Eric's in there.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Eric is you're one of the bartenders here as well as a distiller.
Bartender, distiller, whatever, plumber, electrician.
Mechanic.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, master.
Eric, here's a plunger. Ah, damn.
What am I distilling today?
So what drew you to the whiskey business?
I was always interested in brewing. I used to be a commercial brewer for a few years. I kind of fell out of love with it, and then I was playing around with this. Me and my buddy had a still at home, and we were kind of playing. We were kind of playing around with it, and then I saw that still on a trailer, and that's how I met Mr. Lockwood.
Okay.
Mr. Lockwood.
So you've been here
love
from the
that.
get-go then, right?
Not from the beginning,
Close.
but I've been here.
One of the first.
One of
Okay.
the first employees. So
Yeah, he started coming in here and drinking all our bourbon out, and so that's when we were like, maybe we should think about hiring this guy.
Yeah.
he knows his stuff.
now the rest.
So as a mixologist, what do you like to make?
I mean, really something different, something unique. Our menus kind of walking the line between craft cocktails and whiskey forward cocktails.
Whiskey forward.
Yep, because a lot of the trend right now is 18-step cocktails that kind of mask the flavor of the spirit. Here, whiskey's the start. Yeah. So we want to create a great product that showcases our whiskey, but also is different, it's unique, it's approachable. Yeah, I mean, it's just staying ahead of the trend, you know?
Yeah, we make him work hard because we ask him to do all fresh juices. So he's pressing cranberries by hand, and we're sticklers about that. So he's got to
keep it fresh, right?
That's right. That's right.
So if someone comes into the tasting room, they're going to get something really, really fresh and pretty unique.
Yep, and very strong.
Okay. I like the sound of that. So, as a whiskey guy yourself, right? Are you consider yourself a whiskey guy?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, which one of yours is?
Whatever the highest proof one is on the menu.
You answer the question for you.
all my children are gifted, you know.
Okay.
They're all special
I like
to me.
that.
But
I like that.
I've always been a big Isla Scotch fan, so the Loch Ness right now is definitely one of my favorites.
Okay.
See, they keep adding things that I really want to try.
I know. Yeah.
No, peated single malts all the way. And I mean, the grain we get is sourced from Scotland. It's peated in Scotland, and then it's sourced to us, and it's milled on site, and it's just a very mature product. It's balanced. It's the nice one.
Because that's what you said. You said that when we were getting our tour, you said that you want to do as much of the process on site and in Royal Oak here, because you could get the malt and or the malts and things ground. And the grains ground, you could have that done, but you guys do it here?
It's all out back, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what's that process? What do you do with? You got a big bag there. What do you got to do with it?
Yeah, I mean, we have 50-pound bags. We have a very simple, small grist mill. I'm literally outside, summer, winter. We're out back milling grains fresh. And then the second that grain gets milled, which sets us apart in my mind, is the fermentation begins immediately.
Oh, okay.
So it goes from kernel to cooking in less than 90 seconds.
Wow.
So,
okay.
yep.
So that is that you believe that makes a difference?
I do. I mean, I think
I'm not giving away trade secrets.
Yeah,
but
no. I think fundamentally, Eric's right. Everything that we do here, we try and do it as fresh as possible. Getting the grain from the farmer as soon as we can after it's harvested. Getting it cooked as fast as possible. And maybe one of those steps isolated, you're not going to be able to tell a difference. But I think when fundamentally, when you carry that way of thinking across the whole process, I think you do notice a difference. Yeah, for sure.
You taste the difference too, I would imagine.
It's made with love.
Yeah.
So, Eric, is there a blend that you want to try? Is there a recipe you want to bring into the mix?
Absolutely.
What do you got? Yeah. What do you got on the horizon? What's a
don't get him started.
No?
I'm gonna be paying for this.
Oh my god! Yeah.
I've always wanted to do a rice whiskey.
A rice whiskey.
Yep, but there's a lot of research, and a lot of people have been doing it. And making that different from a sake. Is what's really going to be clutch. But there's so much homework to do, and we're
So because there's like some very popular Japanese whiskeys. Are those rice whiskeys?
Typically, no. They're usually, a lot of them are barley whiskeys. But there are some rice whiskeys.
So what is because we're novices, we don't really know. That's why we do this, is to learn and find out what the hell's a rice whiskey.
I mean, we don't. I mean, it's
made with corn, Jamie.
So you just.
Oh yeah, I have never had a rice whiskey personally. I've had a lot of sakis in my days, and I really enjoy them.
So you're thinking that maybe that.
So doing something like that, and then it's just unique,
Yeah.
A rice whiskey made locally in Royal Oak from scratch by hand. Like, it just sounds sexy.
So by law, whiskey can be made with any type of grain.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to convince the government that it's a grain, not something else. But we like to play around with lots of exotic heirloom type stuff. Sorghum, spelt, millet, rice will be one that's on our docket. So we like just kind of exploring and seeing what comes out of stuff.
Nice. Wow. There's so many questions.
Yeah.
There are so many things. So if we wanted to, if for someone like me as a novice, all right, tonight I had the rye and the pear, right? Right?
Had past tense. He killed that.
It's gone as we speak. So if I wanted to kind of start the night off light, I think this would be a kind of a light drink. What would be that next step that a gentleman like me should take? When sampling?
I mean, cocktail-wise, probably the old-fashioned.
The old-fashioned?
It's going to be a step up from that.
Right.
And then we'd probably ease you into the liqueurs, which are going to be a little little lighter than the straight whiskeys.
Okay.
And then we'd work you up from there to the 110 proof Struggle Bus Moonshine.
Baby steps. Baby
Struggle
steps.
bus, moonshine.
Struggle bus.
I love that. So, all right, yeah. How much product do you have on site, right? Because you've expanded, right? You had this, you had the tasting room. You added, did you have both of these sides when you started?
No, we just expanded into the building next door this year.
Okay.
And that was 4 additional barrel storage.
How many
to be
barrels
honest
do you
with
have?
you, I
Yeah.
have no idea how many barrels we have in here now.
Right
I'd have
on.
to either run around and count them, or
Good,
I'd have to
good,
call
good.
my wife.
Right. Call the old lady in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had our head down making whiskey as fast as we can.
Sure.
And counting barrels isn't something that I've done
Yeah.
recently. Yeah.
So where can we, with the expansion that you had on that side, you're adding barrels. What's on the horizon? Tell me about the next 2 years for Motor City Gas Whiskey.
So yeah, the first bottleneck we ran into was places to put the barrels.
Okay.
So this first expansion was building out more barrel storage. We've almost got that full already, so that's a bottleneck again. So the next step is going to be finding additional storage.
Okay.
And this time we're going to go a lot larger than what we did there,
Right.
so that we've got some elbow room. And then the next step after that is going to increase our production capacity, which is going to be additional fermenter space and the larger still that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
And then from there, at some point, as you can see, our tasting room is pretty small, so
Right.
we're probably going to have to expand that a little bit
Sure.
too. 2 years, I don't think we'll get to expanding the tasting room in that time, but I'm hoping that we'll have our barrel storage figured out, and with a little bit of luck, maybe we'll have our new still in here. We'll be
So you're
cranking
going to
away on
always
that.
still on site? Is that the plan for forever?
Yeah, I mean, this is a labor of love. We're going to do everything we can to make Motor City Gas 100% made in Royal Oak from grain to glass. So that's the goal.
How big is this still here?
We're working with a 250 gallon mash cooker, and the still that we've got is about 150 gallon still.
Okay.
And that is
That's a
also
lot.
from Vendome Copper. Yeah, it looks big, but it's even in the craft distilling world, we're on the smaller side.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Are you going to keep these units and add the other ones, or will you retire these? And
It would be adding on.
Okay.
Adding on. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
and how big will be the next one that you hope to move into?
Well, I need to clear it with the finance department, who's my wife.
But if they
Tanya, listen.
give me
Please,
the green
Tanya.
light.
But if I catch her on a good day, I'm hoping to purchase a 500-gallon all copper whiskey still from Vendome Copper. We want it to be American made.
American
Perfect.
made.
American made.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yep.
So Motor City Gas Whiskey,
Yep.
Royal Oak, right on 4th Street.
Yes.
Right? Just right off of Main. Fantastic space. The fact that the bar, the tasting room is from a 100-year-old barn.
I love this. Yeah.
It's just an amazing thought process
Look at
here. Without even thinking about it.
Yeah, you got the garage doors. It opens up to the sidewalk.
Yep.
And do you do entertainment in here at all or anything? Or
Not yet.
Okay.
We've talked about so far, because we run thin here.
Sure.
All the focus has been on cocktails and whiskey,
Sure.
but we've talked about getting into some live music. We're working on with the city on trying to get a new ordinance passed that would allow us to have some limited food trucks down here,
okay.
which would help amplify our events.
Mm-hmm.
So we have talked about getting into some of that stuff. It's just finding the time.
Right.
to get
So,
around
but yeah,
to it.
downtown Royal Oak. I mean, real estate is a premium down here, and this is your building, which I'm massively impressed by. But do you have the parking lot? Is that parking lot yours? Could you?
So
are you
yeah,
expanding out?
we have a tiny little gravel lot over here,
Okay.
which is where we are hoping to host the food trucks.
Yeah.
And then maybe someday make that our outside seating area
Okay.
for the tasting room, and then we have a larger parking lot behind the building on the other side of the alley that we hope someday to build our Royal Oak Rick House, where Motor
Okay.
City Gas will be stored.
Nice.
How's the city treating you? How's it working with the city?
They've been great. I mean, we were welcomed with open arms here, and the residents have been amazing too. I remember when we were building out in here, and we had no idea if we were even going to make it to opening. We had people walking by that would pop in and say, "Hey, I just want to let you know that we're going to support you. We love what you're doing." And these people haven't tried a thing. They don't know us from anybody, and that's just the kind of support that we've gotten here in Royal Oak. It's a great community, when we've reached out to the city commissioners for help with things like food trucks or whatever it might be. We've gotten a ton of support from them. They're very progressive thinkers, and they've been great at clearing roads for us.
So right now, in the Metro Detroit area, you got to come to Motor City Gas if you want to get yourself some Motor City Gas whiskey.
That's right.
But you were just Travel & Leisure Magazine, right? We started out talking about that. Number 23 in the country.
Yep.
Is your whiskeys available via mail order, or is there any way that people from around the country can get their hands on this?
Not at the moment. That's the frustrating thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had inquiries? Have people asked?
Yeah, we get people hitting us up on Facebook and Instagram all the time, wanting us to ship stuff to them. Sometimes we've even gotten inquiries from out of the country.
Sure.
Right.
Unfortunately, at the moment, you're not allowed to ship any liquor through the mail.
Right.
And in Michigan, if we want to even ship it to a store or a restaurant, we have to go through a statewide distributor, which gets very expensive and complicated. So at the moment, we are only selling product here on site via bottles and cocktails.
Okay.
Yep. But we hope to break into some limited distribution next year.
Okay.
You're not going to see us all over the state.
Right.
We're not in a hurry to grow. We're going to evolve this thing slowly, but we just want to start to kind of sprinkle some Motor City Gas in some places where people can't get it.
Right. Wow.
That is brilliant. So what is the website? Where can people find out about?
It's motorcitygas.com, but I'll just warn you, we're not big tech guys here, so the website
simple.
Is more of a web page.
Kind of your logo and the address.
It's a work
That's
in
right.
progress.
Phone
It's all-
number and address is about it. But we
That
do
works.
we do a lot through social media, Facebook and Instagram, and we'll be on Twitter soon. So that's where you can find out about our new releases, which happen some points of the year. They're happening monthly. So
What's on the horizon? Because this one says coming out soon, right?
Yeah.
The peated one? Is that
We got
Oaktown Brown?
So Midnight Oil is the next one that's coming. That is
Saturday.
our peated bourbon that we're very excited about. It's a cask strength, 106 proof. It's a blend of 3 different Michigan grown corns, white, blue, and yellow corn.
Okay.
Aged in bourbon barrels. And actually double barrel aged, new barrels and also bourbon barrels. And then Oaktown Brown is the one, the best in class from San Diego. That's coming out the day before Thanksgiving. And then later on in this fall, hopefully before Christmas, we'll also have Dirty Stash, which is our corn whiskey that we age in a rye barrel.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for having us out
Yeah,
here.
you
We
bet. Thanks for
appreciate
coming
it.
out, guys.
It is so easy to
Eric,
market a wonderful product, and you have such a wonderful product here. I cannot thank you enough for the time.
Thank you very
Truly
much. I
cannot.
appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm digging it. So I'm gonna. There's a couple more I want to try.
Yeah.
So we're gonna belly up to the bar and try a couple of the other ones. And
Absolutely.
thanks
Yeah.
for having us.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Appreciate it.
Cheers, guys.
There we go. There we go.